Watch new episodes for free on the WEHT 25 Plus streaming app today.
Were you there when that guy got punched at the OVC tournament? How did that go down?
Ever since that punch was thrown, the security has been amplified at the OVC basketball. It's one of those things that you never wanted to see happen, but if it does, let's go viral with it, and that's kind of what happened.
Oh, we went viral with that one.
Yeah.
I heard that was like the strongest punch ever thrown in the Ford Center, and they host WWE wrestling. They host Guns and Hoses. They've had hockey fights there. You're a young man from Elwood, Indiana, which is probably not known by a lot of people down in southern Indiana, but you've made a life here in Evansville. You have a child here. You have a wife here. You have a life here, and it is very, very busy.
Exactly.
And does it ever slow down?
No. I don't know how to slow down.
Well, you get free clothes out of it. You got the
exactly.
West Side Nut Club shirt. We know you're, of course, a part of that organization. One organization folks may not know a lot about is EREP. It's this powerful entity that goes unchecked. It's a rogue, and it runs our city. Is that the best way to describe it?
That is the most excellent way to describe it.
How much does EREP cost me, the taxpayer?
It doesn't, because EREP is like a chamber of commerce.
Okay.
So it is businesses paying in just like a true chamber of commerce does. So it does not affect taxpayers or anything such as that. And that's the biggest misconception is either people think even my friends think I work for the government, but it's not that. It's a true chamber of commerce system.
So you have these businesses, they pay into this organization, and they get protection. That sounds like the mafia.
Yeah, it's something like you're gonna get fired, Tommy.
I'm just kidding.
I just run sports.
I just wanted to take the devil's advocate approach to the EREP conversation, and we know that Lloyd Winnicky is the leader of EREP. So explain that relationship. See, he's almost, and I've said this to others, he's almost the mayor of several counties now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we oversee 5 counties through EREP. When Lloyd left the office, he actually was already on the board of EREP, and it was a perfect transition to what he was able to do. So he is one of the best bosses, leaders I've ever associated with. He already knew everyone in Evansville. He already knew everything that we were associated with. He is, he'll be your good cop. He'll be your bad cop. He is one of the most fascinating people I've ever worked with. I'm very fortunate to have him as my boss and get to tell people that. It's just really great for not only my world, but the entire city of Evansville, because we didn't lose him to another, state government or whatever it could have been, because he was a 12-year politician as mayor. He could have transitioned anywhere he wanted, but he stayed within his city.
Yeah, he's a 3-term mayor. Don't tell him I called him the dear leader. I mean, it is a big organization. Within that organization, though, there's this thing called Sports Corp. That's the entity that I've had a relationship with. It's put money in my pocket in the past. That's what you head up. So when we see like the swimming and diving championships down at the Deaconess Aquatic Center or the Lily King Aquatic Center, or we see the Elite Eight at the Ford Center or the OVC tournament at the Ford Center and other sports events that I haven't mentioned, that's Sports Corp. That's a big deal for us. It's almost like Indianapolis is based on an amateur market. At one point, they just drew in all this amateur sports back in the 80s and 90s, and now look at it. It hosts the Super Bowl. It hosts the NCAA headquarters. All that. Is that what we have here?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. And so we were a sports corp, which we were a standalone entity. And then when EREP was created, the sports corp merged into that and made the sports commission. So we're not actually a corporation. We're a sports commission now, which is the same thing. Just all we did was change the C word. And what we do is high-profile sporting events, really. It is exactly like Indy. We're a part of what's called Team Indiana. So I partner with the Indiana Sports Corp on numerous things. They have grant funding that allow us to do what we do. They have resources that are unmatched that gets us to compete against other cities, because that's truly what I'm doing, is competing against other regional cities to bring in these tournaments. The Ohio Valley Basketball Tournament in 2017, when that was bid, it was bid by numerous cities, and we won that bid. When we win an NCAA event, such as the swim and dive that was just at Deaconess Aquatic Center, we were bidding against numerous communities, numerous cities, numerous aquatic centers all across the country, And what I do is put together the bid and get resources from not only our hotels, but our aquatic center and everything along those lines, put a marketing plan together of how we're going to do it. And then our city is selected. So that's what I tell people. I have truly the best job in the city of Evansville behind Tommy Mason.
I mean, I have several jobs. I do like them all. Who are we competing against? I mean, if I'm Evansville, Indiana, and I'm sizing up my competition, what cities go toe to toe with us?
Well, a good one is we compete against in Nashville. And what I mean by that,
how are we going to compete against Nashville?
I say that. So Nashville was where the Ohio Valley basketball tournament was. Ohio Valley basketball tournament is something that we call our Super Bowl every single year. We want it. We love it. We roll out the red carpet. Nashville wants it, but they're not going to give the resources we do because they also have the SEC tournament and different March Madness type of things. So they're still bidding for it, but they're not being nearly as aggressive as we are because we want these type of events. So that is something that we are the regional cities, but then we also compete against a lot of like the Wichita, Kansas is a big one. We actually lost a women's basketball tournament to that one, which hated to hear, but different things that we do are a lot of regional cities like Moline for women's basketball, everything like that. But if we really want to put our best foot forward, our city is a championship regional city by far.
Will we ever host the NCAA tournament like the opening round, kind of like Dayton, Ohio does, the first four in, or one of those that just gives us an association and an attachment to the NCAA tournament?
I don't want to say never just because there could expand that tournament to, say, 100 and some odd teams. If they do that, then there's an opportunity. Where it sits right now, 100% is a no chance, and it has nothing to do with our Ford Center, has nothing to do with our sports commission, anything like that. The NCAA has very high standards on hotels, and in order for the first four, for example, if you have 8 teams there, you have to have 8 full-service hotels. And what I mean by that is true gigantic conference room and expo type rooms, full catering, everything along those lines. We unfortunately don't have that. We have amazing hotels. We just don't have the full service portion.
Do we have one?
We have the DoubleTree.
Okay.
We actually have the DoubleTree and Bally's, but you can't host at Bally's just because of restrictions with gambling and things like that. We can't utilize that. So we just have the DoubleTree. So Division II is perfect for it, for Elite 8, because we put all 8 teams into that hotel, use the Old National Bank Events Plaza for all the convention space, and we can get our 8 because the parameters are a little bit different than from D1 to D2.
Will that ever come back? We lost the D2 tournament. The Elite 8 doesn't play here. They play in Indianapolis. They consolidated all the championships.
Yeah, so use the word lost. We didn't lose it. We just didn't win it.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is I'm a part of Team Indiana. So the state of Indiana didn't lose it. It went to Indianapolis, which is on Sunday, which I'll be at. And then it goes to Fort Wayne for 2 years. So the state of Indiana still got it. So it's a win for the Sports Corp of Indiana, which we're a part of. We didn't lose it. We just didn't win it to Fort Wayne. And it'll go back to bid this summer, and we'll have a chance to host again in 29 and 30.
And what I've seen, though, like when the Ohio Valley Conference tournament comes to town, I think this is a great example. You go into the stadium, especially in the opening rounds, maybe even the 2 opening games. There's not a lot of people there. And if you're a local, you're thinking, well, this isn't going to go well. This isn't doing well. But that's not the case. There's a lot of dollars that are in those empty seats. Is that what I'm thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first thing with anything collegiate sports, the 4 letters dictate it all, ESPN. And the fact that we're on ESPNU on Friday night and ESPN2 on Saturday, that pays for everything. That right there puts our city on a national map. Now, outside of that, just because those teams are there and it's a Wednesday afternoon, there might not be a huge crowd. They're staying in our hotels. Those teams are, so we're driven off of hotels and everything along those lines. So yes, it might not be the sex appeal that we're looking for. We're a packed stadium, but we are still driving revenue, and it goes from Wednesday all the way to Saturday with more teams coming. And the way it works also, it's a double buy. So teams that are typically the best don't play till Friday. So if you're a fan, you got the 1 or 2 seed, you're not coming until Friday and Saturday, and we're going to be bringing thousands of people into the Ford Center.
Were you there when that guy got punched at the OVC tournament? How did that go down?
I was not at that. Unfortunately,
I heard that was like the strongest punch ever thrown in the Ford Center, and they host WWE wrestling. They host Guns and Hoses. They've had hockey fights there. Wow.
Ever since that punch was thrown, the security has been amplified at the OVC basketball. So if you're behind the scenes, where I'm the Wizard of Oz, make sure everything's going. We have security and police officers there throughout, so therefore it never happens again. It's one of those things that you never wanted to see happen, but if it does, let's go viral with it, and that's kind of what happened.
Oh, we went viral with that one.
Yeah.
And is that a tournament that will always be here? Are we in jeopardy of ever losing that? Do we have to compete with others? How long is that contract?
So we just extended that contract to 2032. Next year will be our 10-year anniversary of that. And when we went from, we weighed our option, and the OVC said yes to 2027. As we did it, we added 5 more years. So the presidents and the athletic directors are the ones that dictate where it's going to go from the OVC. They have the full panel and everything. It was a unanimous decision to stay in Evansville. It was, I believe, after everyone, I think it was 19 votes to nothing or something along those lines. True unanimous decision to make sure that we were staying in Evansville. So no athletic directors, no presidents wanted to move it anywhere else. This is where they want to be. They love Evansville. They love what we do for them. They love our media coverage. They love the Ford Center. They love the hotels, everything along those lines. So I don't see it being in jeopardy, and it definitely won't be for the next several years.
We went to see Daniel Tosh at the Old National Events Plaza the other night. One of my favorite things about comedians, because they go on tour, they bring the same act as they go to tour to these cities, and they have to remember where they're at. And the demographics obviously change when they go to certain places compared to others. But my favorite part of a local stand-up or live stand-up is when they make fun of the town they're in. And I guess the other night he just wasn't impressed with our downtown. And I know it's a little sleepy. We've made improvements downtown, but you have to sell that to other people, though. And there are some, as he put it, some excellent commercial real estate properties downtown.
Yes, and Adam Trinkle with Downtown Evansville and his team works tirelessly to do it. So when the OVC basketball comes in, we put the flags up and everything along those lines. There are heavy investments into our downtown, right there at right off Main Street, the new apartment complex with the new park. Everything will be built there. The old National bank building, that's going to be gorgeous once it's done. And then the 400 block of Main Street's going to get redone as well. Now we have Nando, a very high-end steakhouse right there. Samuel's is on.
I just heard about that place the other day. I said, I want to go to a hole in the wall before I go to that comedy show. And someone suggested that, but they were closed on Sunday, so I was sad. But yeah, I saw a little red building. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's numerous investments happening downtown. So, yes, everyone wants to, talk negatively about our downtown. The issue is a lot of people either I live on the west side of Evansville. Everyone there wants land, or you live in a subdivision up on the north side, or in a older style home on the east side, or whatever it may be. Yes, there's condos and everything downtown, but unless there's an event happening. So if Daniel Tosh was in town on a Saturday evening and there's nothing happening downtown Evansville, yes, there might be a little bit of, people just not down there. But then I guarantee if he were to walk outside his building or his venue before his concert, downtown would have been vibing. And all the events happening downtown. So I'm a big fan of downtown Evansville. I think it's great. Yes, there could always be upkeep. There's always things to do. But I truly believe we're starting to see more and more investments. And the big thing that's going to be happening that EREP is a part of is River Vision. And the plan that we have rolled out to redo Riverside, turning that into the 2 lanes instead of 4, adding a park, adding a theater, everything along those lines. I truly believe downtown Evansville is, in the next 15, 20 years, is going to be the place to be.
Well, and I don't mean to seem like I'm, browbeating you over this. I'm rooting on Evansville. I just have to take the side of I'm scared. I don't want things to die. It's already happened once. I think the resurgence is there, and the efforts of young people like you help us out, because you don't want geezers like me running it. They'd still have Roberts Stadium open. So we would have no progress at this point.
So yeah, I was anti Robert Stadium, and I moved here in 2003. I have been to Robert Stadium. Actually, a lot of people don't know this. I'm from Elwood, Indiana. There was a University of Evansville basketball player named Kyle Runyon. He's now at Gibson Southern. He's from Madison Grant. He was one of my best friend's cousins growing up. I actually came to Evansville in like 1994. Or I think it was 9 or 10 years old, and watched him play at Robert Stadium. Then when I was at USI, I was a part of Robert Stadium. I've been in the suites at Robert Stadium, and I'm going to say this on record, and you're probably going to get bashed. I couldn't stand Robert Stadium. I thought it was an absolute dump. When you had to walk across a skywalk, and then you had to look down on the people as you're going into an executive suite up top, no chance. Give me the Ford Center 10 times over. Say what you want about it. The Ford Center is a fantastic venue. It could hold so many different things, and could not be more happy to have it down.
And I did the MC work for the Aces in the last couple of years it was there. I have a scar on my arm from rubbing up against some pipe in the back, and it's still there to this day, a little scar. But Robert Stadium, and I forgot what I was going to say on this. I was going to piss on it somehow. Well, I know they used to have to bomb it too.
Oh yeah,
because of the smell.
Well, that's because it leaked and they couldn't get it out because it was under the court, and the water level was under what they could suck it out.
Kenny Chesney's the one that pointed it out, and he said he wasn't going to come back anymore. They used to use it as a train. They used to set up their studio, or they set up their stage there because it was so rudimentary. I will. I had it here. Hold on. It was a good Robert Stadium thought, but I think one of the last concerts I went to at Robert Stadium was Kid Rock. And this was a bit more rambunctious Kid Rock then. This wasn't, the Kid Rock you see maybe in the last decade, just a lot more energy. And I just remember I didn't like Robert Stadium so much that we were on that skywalk. And it was a carpeted walkway up there.
Yeah.
I think you're not allowed to smoke inside Robert Stadium. You can now. But I was just smoking cigarettes all night up there and just putting them out on the carpet. I thought, well, they're going to tear this down in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So
I think I was at that same concert.
And I think a deputy walked by me and saw me do it. And she said nothing about it. I mean, I literally put the cigarette out and stomped it on the carpet and thought, what's it going to matter? They're going to reuse this carpet. Do you have any aspirations to engage in politics at some point in your life?
I do not. Actually, I came to USI as radio, TV broadcasting, and political science. My internship, and when I was in Elwood, Indiana, as a high school student, I was an intern for a judge. His name's Kyle Noon. He was my first mentor. I wanted to be in politics. That's truly what my desire to be. As I get older and start looking at it, and the other thing about it too, Tommy, is that we live in the world that social media was around when I was in college. Who knows where everyone was at? Now you do anything, it's all over social media and things like that. So I feel like if the politicians are set up to fail, and it really bothers me because some of the best politicians or some of the best people you could ever have may have done one thing in college, or I went to a party and next thing you know, they're out of context and we just lose those people as leadership roles. So never wanted to be. I think especially in the elements that we live in now, I feel I'm better suited assisting on with organizations as a board member or as somewhere along those lines, staying out of politics.
Well, you could take advice from me. You're still young. You've got many years to accomplish this. What I like to do is stuff as many things and dirty secrets in my closet as possible. So when folks are just taking them all out, they just get bored after a while, and then they stop bothering you about it.
Yeah, that's a solid. That's very solid.
Just overwhelm them with scandal.
Hell, Tommy, I'm 40 and a half years old, for heaven's sakes. I'm not that young anymore.
I will tell you this story I had. It was downtown. We didn't have much to do the other day. It was the last day of spring break for my daughter. So I took the day off. I had a hockey game that night, and we decided it's called the Dick Around Gang. It's just me and my daughter and our dog sometimes when the dog can go, and we just get in trouble. And this started, I think, at Macy's, where we went to the escalator. I go, do you want to go play on the escalator? That was our goal. We went to the mall just to play on the escalator, and we just stayed at the bottom until one of the snotty perfume guys said, "Sir, stop."
Yeah.
And we stopped and we went on. And then she felt that, we got in trouble. That's what the Dick Around Gang does. So the other day we were thinking, I got to do something. And it's usually free. Not that we steal. We just steal amusement. we went to Walmart and we just aimlessly drove around on the handicap cart. So that was fun.
I'm here for it.
She loved that. And then our next goal was to get pretzels at the mall, which we did. We bypassed the escalator that time. Then we went downtown, and this is where I was thinking, it's kind of neat. I didn't know if anyone knew about this or if this is even something that I should have done myself. But we went to the Fifth Third Bank building, our largest building now,
yes,
by default. And I said, Hannah, just hit the biggest number on the elevator. And I thought it was 14. Mm-hmm. It's 15. So we go to the top, and the elevator opens. And I look to the left, and there's this lady in an office behind some partition, and she's not looking up at us. And then I look to the right, and it also had
the Wellborn Baptist Foundation Room.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I went to the right, and there's this big window. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't a doorway. It wasn't an office. It was just a big, wide-open waiting room. It had bathrooms. It had water, a couch, and this huge window, and you can see out from the 15th floor. Was I supposed to be up there? Was that a welcoming area for me?
So that actually room is perfectly fine. It is for non-for-profits to be able to host meetings or things like that. I've been up there numerous times. You're probably supposed to submit a form and make sure they do that, but it is.
Well, the lady never stopped us. Yeah. We walked up and the lady never stopped us. She didn't even look up. And I thought we were getting away with something. Yeah. We were up there for 5 minutes, took some photos, and it was great. But I didn't know if anyone knew about it. And I thought, is this a little secret?
No, I think it's underutilized. It's, I said, the Wellborn Foundation Room or something along those lines. People need to look it up. You could rent that, and you could host trainings or board meetings or throw a birthday party up for if all you want. It is one of the best views in Evansville that you can actually go into and see, because the other views are at the old National Bank building, which are executive suites and things like that you can't get into unless you know someone who knows someone. But that on the 15th floor of the Fifth Third building, if you contact the right people, don't just go rogue up there, Tommy, and you could actually see some of the coolest parts of the entire Evansville and Henderson as you're seeing across the river there. You can probably see the antenna in the building we're at right here.
I couldn't see the antenna.
Oh, yeah?
I tried. It's funny. Every day I drive in, I go, I'm going to that thing at the bottom of that.
Yeah, that's why I know how to turn. They come down.
We didn't pay any money to do that the other day. We stayed up there for about 5 minutes, and for that length of time, my daughter was the tallest little girl in Evansville, and I told her that, so she really enjoyed the Fifth Third Bank experience. Even
See, you're talking about downtown Evansville's awesome.
Yeah,
look at that.
You shouldn't do things like that, but we had a good time with that. It was the Dick Around Gang, as we call it. We met each other at Bossy Field. Was that your first job here in Evansville? And you've really just kind of stair-stepped your way up ever since.
Yeah, so starting with the Otters, I started there as an intern in 2007. It was the year after they won the championship, 2006. I have met numerous people along the way, Elspeth Urbina being one of the best. She and I actually are having coffee on Thursday of this week to catch up as she continues to her career. She's breaking down so many doors, and she will be everyone's boss at some point. She is probably one of the best people I've ever met in my entire life. She's a true leader of this entire city of Evansville. Huge shout out to Elspeth Urbina. Okay, back to your question. Yes, I started there as an intern. I was 20 years old, and I did my first season as an intern, as the marketing person. I was the person that was on the mic in between innings, everything along those lines. Fell in love with the city, fell in love with the love I was getting from the city. And so I was there from the 2007 season. At the end of that, I was hired as an account executive and then the director of operations. So I was 21, 22 years old. I had 160 game day employees under me. I had 8 interns, 5 of them that were older than me, as I was a director of, and I did that for 3 seasons. Loved every bit of it, but hated the hours.
The hours did suck, and it was because I had a morning radio job.
Yep.
Yeah, the hours were not fun, and I think they sped the games up or started them a half hour early the second year, and it still got over at 11 p.m., and I had to be up too early, and it wore on my mood.
Yeah.
A couple great memories, though, and maybe it was you or maybe it was the management after you, but they let me get away with a lot, and there were times where we'd be in a tie ball game late. Maybe there was a bad call at first in the 8th inning of all innings, and I would just politely announce the umpires' names.
Oh, yeah,
thought
I
that
remember.
was great.
Yeah.
The other one was there was a young man that he played for the Florence Freedom.
But now it's the Florence Y'alls.
Yeah, the Florence Y'alls now.
Yeah, the Florence Freedoms, I know.
At the time, he played for the Florence Freedom, and he had given an Otter Bell. Those girls that they're high school or college girls. They're cheerleaders at a Bossy field game. He had given this girl a baseball with his phone number on it, and I thought, well, that's a douchey thing to do, So we had the MC go down. I go, you don't have to go get the ball because I guess the girl had given to a little boy.
Yeah.
And I said, don't get the ball, but go get that phone number. And we had posted his phone number on the big screen.
Yeah, I remember that. Absolutely.
And he was the DH. So between innings, he had the ability to go back and listen to his voicemail. And he was cussing on his message. But yeah, he got hundreds of phone calls that night because we posted his area code and everything. We said that you could win an exclusive prize from the Florence Freedom and call as many times as you can. And yeah, by the end of the day, I forget that kid's name, but you could get away with some stuff at the at Bossy Field. I really enjoyed working for you guys over there.
So there's two stories about Bossy Field that I remember. Is the first, when I started as an intern in 2007, we were playing a brand new team from Southern Illinois called the Southern Illinois Miners, and it was at May. I didn't know what I was doing because I was just starting to figure out what my internship was. But the Southern Illinois Miners had a starting pitcher, and his name was Danny Almonte. And a lot of people are thinking, oh, Danny Almonte. Well, go back to the Little League World Series and the 12-year-old that was actually 15 years old. Oh. Exactly. Danny Almonte was a starting pitcher, and he was terrible. He got shelled. And I remember he got taken out of the game, and he got into an argument with his manager and walked to the bullpen, which bullpens were like behind over back there, way back when. And he had a little sidekick phone. And I just remember this for whatever reason, flips up his phone and leans against a fence and starts texting his girlfriend, his mom, whoever it is. And that manager came down and they released him right then and there. And I thought, okay, I've met Danny Almonte. How cool is that? And then the other, I don't know if you were here. Do you remember an intern named Tom Mueller? He was a Ball State guy, kind of bigger guy.
I do remember the name.
Okay.
I'm getting old, Brandon.
Yeah. So he was an intern, but then we had some roster changes or something like that, and he played at Ball State as a pitcher. Well, we needed a new player because there was transition, so they put Tom in as a pitcher, and we had a rain delay, just like you talked about, and then it's like the 8th inning. There's about 14 people in the stands. It's probably close to midnight, but we have to finish the game. And he gave up a home run that was one of the furthest balls I've ever seen hit. We went out into the parking lot, found the ball, and had him sign it, and I still have that ball as a case in my office.
Okay, I do remember them making a big deal about one of their own playing for the Otters.
Yeah.
And that happened with the Thunderbolts. No, the Icemen at the time. We had a guy named Brian Ball who played, I think, C-level hockey at Swander in a league, and maybe there's B-level. And he was a goalie.
Yeah.
And a lot of times on these minor league hockey teams, a goalie gets called up. You got to have a warm body on the bench as a backup, and they had Brian Ball suit up. No intention of ever putting him in the game.
For sure.
But just to keep that roster spot and a warm body there, they had Brian Ball.
Yeah, that's what they did with Tom, but they put Tom in a rain out because it was already – the game was already decided. No one cared. We were already in last place at the time, and he just pitched one. It was great. It was late at night. No one was there. I think every single person heard me cuss like, holy smokes, as this ball is over even the brick fence. And we actually found it by the dumpsters way out in the parking lot, and Tom Mueller signed it. And I don't have a lot of memorabilia because I'm not a memorabilia guy, but I have in a case a Tom Mueller signed baseball.
My time with the Otters ended when I had a disagreement with the general manager that came in after you left. He's the only person I've ever met from the state of Alaska, and I didn't like him. Yeah. And he got on me for ordering a pizza to the press box. They had that double deal game.
I remember, yep.
So it was like a 10 p.m. start time, and I thought it'd be really cool if we could get, and this is before DoorDash and Grubhub. Yeah. It'd be funny if we could get a pizza delivered, not just to the address, but to the press box. So I had a Papa John's pizza delivered up there between games, and he scolded me because he thought I was offending the food that they had at Bossy Field.
And I don't think Papa John's was a sponsor at the time, and I think that's what upset him too, because he was all about his sponsorships or something.
And it made him mad. And then after that, we had some words. He made sure he got his last word in. I made sure I got the last word in, and then we didn't have a great relationship after that. But it was just because I thought, well, that's petty. I wanted to bring a pizza up here, and I thought it was kind of a neat stunt. But who knew? I invented Grubhub by doing that.
Yeah. And see, all of that, that's why I loved about minor league baseball. I mean, there have been hundreds of times where I've been Evan the Otter, and especially in minor league baseball, you be Evan the Otter, but you can do whatever you want because it's minor league baseball. If you want to order a pizza, order a pizza. Like, those are the type of things that I really loved, and what made me fall in love about sports is every single day, especially working from the legendary Tommy Mason, we had no idea what we were going to get. If Tommy, and I remember so much that if it was a bad call or if it was a 3-2 count and it was a pitch that was high, Tommy would be on the PA, and I would hear him say something as ball 4 called by umpire so-and-so, and that umpire would take his mask off and just turn and stare up, and Tommy would turn, and poor kid, he'd point right at Brandon Taylor, making it seem like it was Brandon Taylor's fault. The scoreboard operator, one of the best guys ever, and I bet you made Brandon Taylor probably cry laughing and also scared out of his mind that he was doing something wrong every single day.
He's still there.
Yes.
Yeah, he's still there. I love Brandon. Yeah, I try not to bring up Evan the Otter much anymore. Folks don't want to hear about Evan the Otter. With the Epstein files, man.
Oh, yeah.
In the Epstein files.
Of course, yes.
Yeah,
we don't want to talk about that.
All right, I was going to get some here. Speaking of that, let's go to this.
Yeah, let's transition out of the Epstein files, Tom. Let's see how you do this.
Well, I can.
Yeah.
I can transition right out of the Epstein files into this one. You were working at the University of Evansville where the stock was high. I mean, the stock could not have been higher at the time. And then this guy named Walter McCarthy got to town. Is it McCarty or McCarthy?
McCarty. Some call him Walty Call Medina, but, that's neither here nor there.
Tell us about this wild ride. You were over there, I think, for 3 years when that Learfield thing started.
Yeah. So I started with Learfield. I did 5 years total at the University of Evansville. I was hired actually like 3 days before Walter McCarty. I caught lightning in a bottle because Learfield is a national organization. It's fantastic. Loved every bit of working for Learfield. So I was doing all the sports sponsorships. University of Evansville needed a spark plug. They needed everything. So me being hired, him being hired at the same time, we really took the Ford Center. I remember those first games, we cranked up the music. We had a lot of sponsorships. I'm not going to lie, I absolutely killed it as sales. I was the national sales, the number one salesperson in all of Learfield when Walter was there.
Well, I remember you talking to me and you said, we're printing money.
Yeah.
However, it wasn't long after that.
Yeah.
You take this ride to do with behavior. Mm-hmm. I know that another coach within the University of Evansville had warned them about this behavior. But then I don't know what the actual behavior was. I don't know what the crux of the complaint was. And I don't think we'll ever know, but it was very uncomfortable to walk around there for a while.
Yes. So we beat Kentucky that night, which was incredible. Everything was great. That just took Walter's head so big at the time. So the next 2 months or so was just craziness for all University of Evansville. But I remember it was like, I think December 21st or December 22nd, we were playing Murray State in the Ford Center right before Christmas break. We won in front of 7,000 fans. And I thought, okay, this is about to be one of the best runs the University of Evansville is going to happen. I was on the golf course at the number one tee, December 26th at like 10 o'clock in the morning. It was a gorgeous day. And I get a call that they were letting Walter McCarty go. And ever since then, it was a complete downfall. Numerous things came out. There were situations where he was warned. There were situations where he made passes at different students and female students on campus. There was allegations that ended up being true. I said, I don't know all the details. I don't know if I want to know those details. I know it was bad. Everything I heard was even worse. And they let him go. And ever since then, University of Evansville is really trying to figure out what the next step has been.
I have no problem with folks getting after it, having a good time, maybe celebrating their celebrity. But yeah, you take something that's in Boston, and then you drop it off here in Evansville, and it's just not the same flavor. And the energy here is not the same. And what you may do may be okay there, but it's not okay here. And there's a lot more witnesses, and there's a lot more people shocked by what you may be taking part in.
Yeah, I've always said you and I could go right now to a local establishment. I don't want to call out any businesses or anything like that. We could sit at a bar and make up a story about anything. Within 2 hours, we would get a text back saying, "Hey, I heard so-and-so did this." And that's what Evansville is. So there were numerous times that I would get a message from different people saying, "Hey, saw Walter at so-and-so last night," or saw this. And then he was an ego guy. He loved his ego. And if someone gave him the attention that he thought he deserved, he was going to exploit it and go bigger and more and more. And I said that was that's what happened. And then adding to that, COVID happened shortly thereafter, which therefore shut down everything. So I don't say it hid anything from the University of Evansville by any means, but the athletic director at the time kind of went into hiding as well. So everyone wanted answers and no one was getting them. So me being the salesperson, I still had to go out and try to sell this, even though COVID's happening. So me and Scott Peace, I think, was one of the best people at University of Evansville, and that entire team over there, Bob Bristash, Michael Robertson, those guys, we were still trying to sell the University of Evansville because we had to, and upper administration at the time was in hiding. So it was very difficult, but it also helped me take my career to the next level, because a lot of these businesses and CEOs and CFOs and different people of the organization are like, okay, Brandon's really got something here. He's not afraid of the situation. He's not afraid of being in front of it. And I'm also a public relations guy. So I think that's what catapulted myself and, as I said, Scott and Michael and those guys to where they are. And then the administration that's no longer there, digressed.
I think it's important to point out that you just changed all the letterhead to say USI on it. It seemed to trick people into supporting a good cause.
Yeah, whatever it takes, right?
Yeah, whatever it takes.
Hey, I'm the USI grad that worked at UE, so I'm red and blue make purple.
Because I think it's just extraordinary, the Walter McCarty era, which didn't last very long. And yes, we did have COVID like 2 months later. So if we were going to take two bitter medicines at the same time, I'm glad we took them at the same time, because had we, got out of the Walter thing and then had the pandemic, all the colleges were fighting through that too. Yeah. My favorite thing, though, when Indiana State came to town, you guys made me wear a mask, which I thought was asinine. I'm the announcer. Why do I need to wear a mask? No one else around me has a mask, or they have masks, so why should I? Anyway, they said you have to leave if you don't wear the mask. Yeah. They were stern about it. So, and it was a thick mask too. And so I wore the mask, and I hate Indiana State fans that come down here and fill up a section. And I thought, well, this is the only time I'll ever be able to do this bit where I'm just going to go ahead and cover my mouth as I read their starting lineup to make it sound like it's the mask.
Yeah.
The mask is muffling me so badly that you can't even hear any of the names and any of the numbers as they jump off the bench to get adoration from the crowd there. And the crowd's confused. And at the moment I'm done saying their names and their head coach,
you drop the mask.
Yeah, I dropped the mask, or at least my hand from my mask, and things come out and there's clarity.
Yeah.
And
I was actually sitting next to you at that, because we were in those weird restrictions where you had to sit, and then it was like 6 chairs or something, especially early on that year. That was crazy. And that's what helped, because who knows what negative backlash we would have had from sponsorships and fans and season ticket holders, because that was the Todd Licklider years, and we were trying to figure out all of that. That first part of the season, before Indiana got there was 93 people in the arena, but yet you're still having to go do the full announcements, PA, bringing energy in front of 93 people where you could even sit next to your family. You had to have like chairs. It was very strange. Looking back, I've seen pictures of the COVID situation, and I'm like, what were we doing?
Well, there was one night, and the masks caused other confusions too. When the referee calls a foul, he puts up fingers. Nowadays, they have to do exotic numbers, but I didn't know the number. He was confused. I was confused. I had my hands in the air, and, I only have a few seconds to get that information. I don't want him to start play without me knowing who the foul was called on. He thinks I'm being very animated over there. He comes over and says, "You need to calm down." Yeah. Well, I have a mask on. You don't even know if I was saying anything. And I think I repeated it a couple times when he went down the court, and because I was annoyed by him, and not a big fan of referees. And then he stops at the next whistle and comes over and says, "If you say anything else, I'm going to kick you out. And then I noticed you were standing over here to my left, and just kind of off, not out of my vision a little bit. And I said, well, why is Brandon McClish over there? They go, well, he's going to take over if you get kicked out.
I get a text message saying, Tommy's about to get kicked out. You got to be the PA. So I'm like, all right, what else am I doing? There's 93 people here. So yes, that is too funny. I remember that very much so.
I could write a book about public address announcing. I didn't think that it was possible. It's opened up an entire world to me that you can kind of play with people's minds a little bit, amuse them. There's an energy to the stadium. Just weird.
Well, it's what's great is, and you and I remember we had lunch at, it's right across the street from Casey's dugout right now.
It's that Mediterranean.
Yes. Yeah. And you and I had lunch there, and I said, hey, I'm going for this position. And you said, I would love to do anything you'd be a part of. And I said, you will be the Elite Eight announcer. And we did that. I believe we had it for 2 years, or I think during the time. And I said, I've known Tommy for years, and I know his tone as well because I've been hearing you for so long, from even starting at the Otters or going to a UE basketball game, whatever it is. When Tommy has a tone with an official, I know what it is, and it's absolutely great. And you are a true professional because you know no moment's too big to be able to bring in energy. That's what I've always appreciated about you being a PA announcer.
Well, I like to play with the referees a little bit. You can add words in from the English language. If a foul is called and maybe you don't agree with it, you can just say a foul was called.
Yes, a foul was called.
Maybe several fouls weren't called, and then a foul is called.
Yes.
And then you say something like, that was a foul on so-and-so. And then I think the crowd gets it. I think they understand, but the referees can't fault me. No. I'm just using the English language in a slight tone. That's it. That's all.
Yeah, that's always my favorite, and I know exactly what you're talking about. And the other is, if you've ever been to an Aces game, I'm sure you do it for the hockey games as well. At the end of it, I got to know, when do you start coming up with the name when you say, on behalf of the University of Evansville and Brandon McClish, we want to thank you for being here?
Well, there's a lot of people that hustle in there.
Yeah.
Or sometimes we have special guests, and I like to do it that way.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just thought it was something to do to give people something to look forward to. If they're walking out, maybe we lost by 10, they're walking up the staircase, and then they just hear something like that. And
just turn around and got a little smile. Yeah. So I was always
like the bingo card. Yeah. They got that one little extra thing from the bingo card.
I always wondered, because you've said my name numerous times with people I've with, or you've said the most random things. It's like, I wonder if he came up with that in the second half. Because if you know anything about Tom, if you're ever near him, I have no idea how you do it, because you get this list for starting lineup, and you write everything down. I think you are the only person that could read your own handwriting. I've seen what you write. I have no idea what you're writing.
Well, it's print.
It's scribble print. It is. That's would be my biggest fault in being PA. I have no idea how to read my own writing. Tommy has to write the starting lineup. You got about 3 minutes to figure it out.
Yeah.
Where they're from, everything. Now, UE, you obviously know, but this other team, especially some of these teams that have a lot of foreign players where you're trying to even figure out what they're saying, and you scribble in what their names are or whatever it is, and I'm looking like, how did you just read that? I can't even read what you're saying. So what a talent you have to be able to read your own writing.
The reason I do this show, there's two reasons, I'll be honest. The Poon Saloon, that was one of my favorite stories ever. Oh, wow, I couldn't believe that. And then the other one was that we were at a Aces game. You were still there working for Learfield, and you pointed over to the baseline in the stands there near the UE bench, and you said, hey, I bet that guy in that white baseball cap, I bet he's got 10 grand on the over-under. And I'm thinking, who puts 10 grand on the Aces over-under? And then you said, that's Clint Keon. And I thought, well, I don't know who Clint Keon is. And I didn't. I really didn't. And then I found out about Clint Keon. You told me a couple brief stories. And I said, well, Brandon, can we have lunch with that guy one day? I just want to hear him tell me some stories. Then I thought, that guy needs to be interviewed. He would tell all the stories, and it would be great. And I'll make a podcast or a webcast about it. And he'll be my first one, that in the Poon Saloon.
Yeah.
And it never happened. About 3 months later, I was scrolling through Facebook or something, and there I see an accident that involved Clint Keon, and I never got to meet him, never got to tell his story through his mouth. But, oh, man, I was so happy to find his brother, Casey. He looks up to his brother so much. Probably the second best human being to ever walk the earth to tell those stories. So I got that out of there. And you were able to hook me up with Casey Keon. And it was just a year after his brother died, but he still told me those stories gleefully. But I bet you have at least one Clint Keon story.
Oh, absolutely. I got to know Clint when I was at University of Evansville at Learfield. All the people I was associated with, they knew Clint, and he was just this personality. I knew of him, and I've heard of him, but Clint Keon's the Bo Jackson. You know, you hear these Bo Jackson stories that Bo Jackson, when he was in high school, could shoot a bow and arrow like Odysseus or whatever through everything along those lines. And you just didn't believe it, and then you start hearing more and more and more. So I got to know Clint through Walter McCarty, where it started. And next thing you know, we are at different golf outings, and I'm just getting to know him and, going to dinner with him and everything along those lines. And we become friends. No matter what story we could sit here and say, he was one of the most genuine people I've ever met. He used to call me up and ask about my son, or just ask about how work's doing, and then always would leave the conversation with a compliment. Brandon, you are doing fantastic things. It is incredible what you're able to do with this community. Clint and I didn't grow up together. We didn't have a lot of the same background by any means, but he got to know me, and that's how he always ended the conversation. So I always thought that was the nicest thing that's done. I've tried to do that with my career, my life. Now, a true Clint Keon story. We are down in Baja Mar in a Aces basketball tournament. There was a few of us going down there, a bunch of couples, and they were staying at Baja Mar, and we were staying over by the Atlantis with Corey Edwards and a few different people over there. You always got to name drop Corey Edwards when you're telling a story as well, because it's credible. So we are playing the tournament at the Baja Mar. Well, the hurricane whipped through the Bahamas, and the actual gymnasium we were supposed to be in was now for rescue. That's where a lot of the supplies and everything went. So we are now in this ballroom at the Baja Mar. It was a makeshift tournament. It was a 3-day tournament, like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or whatever it was. Anyway, at the same time, the World Series of Poker is going on. And obviously Clint is being a gambler and things like that. So he is down there, and we're on this basketball court. Imagine putting a collegiate basketball court in the middle of Old National Vince Plaza. When I say we're sitting in folding chairs courtside, we're sitting in folding chairs courtside, and we're drinking glass bottles because that's all the casino had for beers and everything like that. So everything that's going on is you could hear the coach in the timeout, because there's literally 25 people in here. 8 of them are with our group over here. So we're sitting there talking, and Clint is arguing with the coaches, because we're watching all these games, about put so-and-so back in. I got money on these games and things like that. So that was the Tuesday.
He's arguing with coaches that are actually coaching a live game.
Yes.
Not the Aces.
Yes. And he's sitting with his the poker buddies, because they're all doing the same thing. They want live action. They're playing poker at night, and now they're looking for true live action where they can try to control the odds. That's what Clint always wanted, was a competitive edge by any means. So anyway, we're going to that night. We're back at the casino, and certain UE players are out that night that aren't supposed to be. They sneak out of the room. Clint is throwing craps with them or gambling, whatever it is. So he knows, and he also knows that the other team is there as well, the team we're going to be playing the next day. So Clint, of course, walks over and bankrolls them to do different things on the craps table. And he's just, having a good time, making sure all these student athletes come through. So the next day, we have lunch on the beach, and he grabs it, goes, "Hey, McClish, let's come with me. I want to go make a bet." I'm like, okay, cool. I wasn't allowed to gamble. I still don't gamble this day. People believe it. I worked for Learfield, therefore you couldn't. I truly 100% did not make any bets by any means, but it's an open sports book there. He is wearing swim trunks and walks up and says, "Have you ever seen it?" I remember Clint Sylvega looks right at me and says, "Have you ever seen a line move?" And I'm like, "No, I've never seen a line move." No idea what he's talking about. I didn't gamble and things like that. Well, the Aces were, I think they were 7-point dogs or something like that, or something along those lines. But he knew that the other team was out doing, going amok and things like that. So he, in swimming trunks, little mesh lining, everything, pulls out $10,000 in cash in his swimming trunks and counts it and says aces to cover, whatever it was, hands it and says, now watch. And we're watching the TV screen up there, and all of a sudden, as soon as he bet hit, and it went from a 9-point underdog to a 5-point right then and there. But he got it for the 9 points. And ever since then, I was like, okay, I didn't think that was happening. I thought that was things like that. But ever since then, that's my main Clint Keon story. Just the way he always had a bet, but he always knew how to control his bet. There was always parameters. He was such a smart guy about everything along those lines.
Well, I think Casey's right. And maybe Casey and his family can cash in one day, or his lovely children. There needs to be a movie about him.
Easily. I said he is. I was at the services, and his wife, Hannah, we got my wife and him got to know because we were on that trip together. And I did a social media post, and it took me a while to kind of say it, because it was like the childhood hero that I never had just passed away, even though he wasn't my childhood. I just love the stories of Clint Keon. It's the Bo Jackson. And I mentioned about being Bo Jackson, and like, even if the stories were fabricated, they were still a story that you couldn't question. If someone said that he shot 100 blind free throws and made 91, it's like, okay, did he really? He might have only made 88, but the story might have been, but I'm not going to question it, because it could have been 91, could have been 94. And that's what I just find so great about his legacy, and what he was able to do in our community is be able to have this like bigger than life type of personality. And he was so funny. Once again, you talk about masks, I meant to say this earlier. We were in St. Louis for the Arch Madness, and we had to wear masks. Clint did not like wearing masks by any means. And we're all sitting up way up over the section, and it was a big group of us, of UE people, and we're in St. Louis, so at the Enterprise or whatever it's called at the time. They kept coming back, and Clint, hey, you got to wear your mask and things like that. He put it on, and then he got to wear his mask. Then finally they told him to leave. Well, the Aces just got blown out, so we were leaving anyway. And he made up this most believable story about having a coughing disorder, made up some name, everything along those lines, to the point where the ushers came back and apologized to him. And different stuff like that. It's like, he didn't need to do it. And yes, did he make that person, whatever, but it was just so, like, you couldn't be around him without just laughing. Sammy Grau tells a story about him, and there was a video, I remember seeing it, pulls up to Augusta, Georgia, and the Masters, and he's like, hey, I'm here for my tee time. And he just tried to get to where he could play. And the first was like, what are you talking about? I was like, no, I signed up. I got a tee time. See if he could get through the gates of the most prestigious golf course in the world. And he ended up not doing it. But afterwards, he just told the person, like, oh, hey, thank you so much. We're just having some fun or anything like that. But just his stories, I'm sitting here smiling just talking about Clint. I go to Casey's dugout often. I love seeing the pictures. I love seeing Casey and everything he's doing. I love seeing Hannah and the entire family. I'm grateful that I had a brief opportunity to meet Clint Keon, and he left a lasting impression on me, and I will tell his stories for eternity.
Maybe that's why I'm intrigued by him. It's not necessarily the gambling. It's the getting over on things. Yeah. I like that. Sneaking in places. Yeah. I know there's a video, and his brother had shared it, of him just going to Bob Knight's house one time. Yeah. And this is in the last 4 or 5 years, when Bob obviously passed away in the last couple of years. But he just goes to his house, says hi to him. And I think Bob Knight at one point had recruited him. Yeah. Probably didn't remember him, but yeah, they had the moxie enough just to pull up to his driveway, ask his wife, they go see Bob, and then they spend a couple minutes with him. Also, just sneaking in things is kind of neat to me. I feel like, if you can get away with that, it's a great feeling. Heck, one time, me and a friend went into the Hottie Shrine Circus, and we walked around the Ford Center thinking, oh, it's great, we snuck in here. Well, I'm welcomed in a lot of events at that building, so they just let me in. But we couldn't find a beer, and we couldn't understand that. But, oh, that's right, they don't serve beer at only downstairs where the Shriners are at. But sneaking in places, that started as a kid. I was able to sneak in to the court on the Pacer game. Yep. Dad would always get tickets to the Pacers once a season, and it would always be like the Utah Jazz or like the Golden State Warriors. Never a marquee like Jordan. He wasn't coming to town. I didn't see Magic play. But he would always get these tickets, and they were always in the same spot just above the second ring of Market Square Arena. So you weren't in the bottom, you were in the top, but only about 4 or 5 rows up. And you couldn't go further down. So if you went up to the usher and you tried to walk down to courtside, they'd stop you. You don't have a ticket. Well, I devised a way at 10 years of age to go to the usher at the door and say, hey, my dad forgot something in the car. I need to run out to the car and get it. And this is in the day where they didn't scrutinize a lot of that. And so they would let you out. And they go, here's a pass. Bring this back when you get to the door and we'll let you back in. And a 10-year-old kid, yeah, sure, okay. All I did is I went downstairs and then showed that usher the same pass, and he let me in ground level. Yeah. And now I'm at courtside, and I'm sitting there, and the ball bounces to me, and it's just one guy at the end of the court. It's Patrick Ewing. And so I was able to throw a ball back to Patrick Ewing on the court. He kept shooting. I sat down. About halfway through the first quarter, I look up at my dad. He's just shaking his head. He's watching this whole thing, doesn't know how I got down there. And then a nice businessman and his beautiful wife showed up about halfway through the first period and said, those are my seats. And I, of course, embarrassed at 10, I got up and went back to my seat. But I like the fact that you could get around things. Yeah. And then the Clint Keon with the gambling, it's the Bobby Riggs aspect that I'm really intrigued by. But to know he's from Evansville, Indiana, I think that's why I'm obsessed with that story. And I wanted to start this show because of Clint Keon stories.
No, and I remember exactly you and I having the conversation when I mentioned Clint at the Aces game, and I stated who he was, and you were just baffled, like, wait, who? And I started telling you stories, and that's how Clint Keon's legacy is going to continue on. Is here in 5 years, I'm going to sit my son we're going to go to a Memorial basketball game, and I'm going to talk about Clint Keon. And he's like, who's Clint Keon? And then I'm going to tell him the stories that I was told or I experienced. And I hope it just continues to pass on. And that's what the Clint Keon legacy of Evansville truly is. And I'm glad. I remember exactly. I watched it numerous times when you had Casey on here, and the way that him and that entire family talks about Clint and their legacy. He is a true treasure of Evansville, and I hope that we continue to say his name in the most positive of graces.
Well, I'm excited about it. And I know folks in, Evansville, sometimes we have a chip on our shoulder. We like to point out the negative. Oh, man, look at this meth problem. Look at this homeless problem. But then we have stories like that. I'm like, well, look at this.
Yep.
This is a great story. This should drown your thoughts of that. Be excited about stories like this because they do exist. It's not all about the problems.
Yep.
We do have some exceptional people that are from here, sometimes celebrities. And
we have a six-time Olympic medalist in Lily King. We have Michaela Jenkins, another Olympic medalist with the Paralympics. It's incredible the people that are from this city.
And if we really like you, if we really, really like you, then the radio stations around here will kill you off.
Yeah.
Don Mattingly. Had Sarah Pepper on to explain that a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, when you start killing off your best celebrity. I guess that's about it, because I know in the next 6 months we'll probably talk to you again because you have a strong association with the West Side Nut Club and the Fall Festival. Again, could there be more reasons why I like you? Because, you worked for the University of Evansville Purple Aces, and then I get to work with you over there as well. So it's just really neat to have all that together. But yes, the Fall Festival is coming up. It's my favorite thing on the planet. It's second. It's just, what number one is.
Indy 500. Yeah, exactly. You're from Indianapolis. Yeah. It is 100. You're from Ben Davis. How close did you live next to Speedway then?
You could hear the cars.
Yeah.
You could definitely hear the cars on certain days, yeah.
So to give you a story you didn't ask for. So I know you love the Indianapolis 500. I grew up there. My aunt, my mom's sister, lived right off of Crawfordsville Road. I can get there. We were 2 blocks away. So my first hustle was parking cars in a grass lot that wasn't even ours. It was the neighbor's lot, but yet we were parking cars, taking all the cash, and then going to go spend it on something stupid down the way. We were 10, 12 years old. We would park the cars, and we would get all that cash, and we would run down and buy all the slushies and all that sort of stuff. The Coca-Cola lot back in, probably 1998 to 2000. I learned a lot about life in that Coca-Cola lot, if you can imagine those tailgates of that. And at the same time, the Brickyard came, so I was doing on the 500 and Brickyard. But you're you're a 500 person, you're the IndyCar, more NASCAR, correct?
No, I don't like NASCAR.
I didn't think you did.
I think it's not right what they do they go to these tracks around the country, and so NASCAR comes in and they run a 500-mile race. And at the end of the day, the track owner, after they've left town by Tuesday, they start seeing this gleam of brown down these tracks. And that's from from the turd polishing that happened just a couple of days ahead of that, and now they've got to go clean up this whole mess they made on that guy's track. But you were talking about the 500. No, I have a strong association with the 500.
Yes.
And it's because my mom went to Speedway High School.
Yep.
They're the spark plugs.
I do. Yeah. My cousins went to Speedway.
And she got pregnant in the staircase at the school with me. So
Okay.
yeah,
So therefore, you have to have
that's
an
not
affiliation.
true. Brandon McClish, everybody. Great to have you in here. Thank you so much.
Tommy, it was my absolute pleasure. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. You're a true treasure of this entire city. I'm glad to be a part of it, and truly thank you.
I'll have to cut all that out, that nice stuff you said. Yeah. All right, see ya.
See you, Tommy Mason.
Watch new episodes for free on the WEHT 25 Plus streaming app today.